Hi, I'm Kathryn Leigh Scott, and I am the next guest On Screen and Beyond.
On Screen and Beyond, an inside look into the entertainment world featuring interviews with people from the movie, TV, and music industry, news on upcoming TV and DVD releases, and the rumor mill. And now, here's the host of On Screen and Beyond, Brian Zemrak.
Welcome. This is episode 736 of On Screen and Beyond, the show that brings you a celebrity guest each week right here from the movie, TV, or music industry, as well as keeping you updated on what's coming your way as far as remakes, sequels, prequels, upcoming new movies, TV and movie DVD releases, and the rumor mill. This week, our guest on Screen and Beyond is Kathryn Leigh Scott, who played the role of Maggie Evans on the 60s soap opera Dark Shadows. And as many of you know, I am currently trying to watch every single episode of Dark Shadows. It's going to take me a long time. But back in the day, 59 years ago, the show sparked the imagination of a generation and is still a huge following today. Kathryn has been a guest in the past here on our audio show, well before we started doing video. And you can check out those episodes. They are number 144 and 416. You can check them out anywhere on your favorite podcast app if you want to listen to them and enjoy her talks in those. And it's great to have her back, this time on video. I'm your host, Brian Zemrak, and this week we have info on a new Tom Hanks movie, Hugh Jackman, Jamie Lee Curtis, and so much more. And if you're new to On Screen and Beyond, I hope you're checking out all our past interviews with over 736 of them with people from all aspects of entertainment, including Gavin MacLeod, Captain Stubing from The Love Boat, of course, and Meatloaf, who gave us the song Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, Robert Wagner, number 2 from the Austin Powers films, and so many other people. Also, be sure to check out our video versions of the show on Spotify and on YouTube with our most recent episodes. Also go to onscreenandbeyond.com, on Facebook, Instagram. I hope you're, checking us out. And when we post a new show, I hope you're sharing it and letting other people know about the interview that's come up for this week. And appreciate that very much if you do that. And they might enjoy hearing their stories from the people we've interviewed, or just tell a friend about On Screen and Beyond. And subscribe and follow on whatever podcast platform you get us from, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Alexa, Podbeam, or wherever you get your podcasts for the audio version, or for the video version, you can get it on Spotify or YouTube. So a lot of places you can get it. Kathryn Leigh Scott, Maggie Evans, Josette, and more from Dark Shadows is going to be joining us shortly. But first, it's remakes, sequels, and prequels on Screen and Beyond.
Please hang up and try again.
Remakes, sequels, and prequels. Tom Hanks and director Aaron Schneider will both return for the sequel to their film Greyhound. Now, Aaron was a past guest here on Screen and Beyond in episode 536. Be sure to check that out. He talks about the film, making it, and working with Tom Hanks. And Hunger Games, Sunrise on the Reaping, will have Jesse Plemons on the cast. Jesse is known for many roles, especially for Friday Night Lights. And the director of Final Destination Bloodlines is teasing that there will be a twist in the film that will throw fans for a loop. We shall see what happens with that. Emma Mackey of Sex Education will play the White Witch in the new Netflix remake Narnia. That's from Greta Gerwig. And on July 18th, look for the sequel reboot of the film I Know What You Did Last Summer. Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt will be returning to the franchise once again. And that is it for remakes, sequels, and prequels. Coming up next on Screen and Beyond, upcoming new movies. Upcoming new movies, Giancarlo Esposito and Steve Buscemi will join the cast of The Only Living Pickpocket in New York with John Turturro. It's a crime thriller. August 28th, look for The Thursday Murder Club on Netflix with Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, and Ben Kingsley. And Christmas Day 2025 is a release date for a Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson film called Song Sung Blue. That might sound familiar because that was a song title of a Neil Diamond song. And this is a feel-good drama about two down-in-their-luck people who form a Neil Diamond tribute band, and it's based on a true story. And that's it for upcoming new movies. Next on Screen and Beyond, movies and TV on DVD and streaming. Movies on TV and DVD and streaming, May 23rd. You can get Fog of War on DVD with John Cusack, and A Working Man with Jason Statham will arrive on DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K on June 10th. Bill Murray and Naomi Watts come to DVD and Blu-ray on June 10th in The Friend. Captain America Brave New World flies on to Blu-ray and 4K on May 13th. And 1990s Air America with Mel Gibson lands on Blu-ray, 4K, and Steelbook on June 10th. And that is it for movies and TV on DVD and streaming. Coming up next on Screen and Beyond, it's TV and entertainment time. TV and entertainment time. Jamie Lee Curtis will executive produce a new series for Blumhouse called Darkly. Now, this is based on a best-selling novel. And American Dad from Seth MacFarlane will return to Fox for its 20th season. May 4th, The Walking Dead, Dead City returns to AMC for season 2. And on May 27th, America's Got Talent returns on NBC for season 20. And that's it for TV and entertainment time. Coming up next, we sit down and chat with one of the stars of the 1960s cult classic soap opera Dark Shadows, Maggie Evans herself, Kathryn Leigh Scott, right here on Screen and Beyond. Joining us today on Screen and Beyond, our guest is an actress and a novelist who appeared in many films and TV shows, including Brannigan with John Wayne, The Great Gatsby with Robert Redford. She worked with Jimmy Stewart on stage and a recurring role on The Goldbergs on TV, just to name a few. And in the 60s and 70s, she was one of the stars of the hit Gothic soap opera Dark Shadows that captivated the minds and hearts of its viewers. She played multiple roles, including Rachel Drummond, Lady Kitty Hampshire, and Josette Collins, and of course, Maggie Evans. It's Kathryn Leigh Scott. Kathryn, welcome to On Screen and Beyond.
Oh, Brian, thank you. That's a lovely introduction, and it's nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. And, Kathryn, my listeners and my viewers they know what I'm doing here because last month, I had told them that I was going to start all over with Dark Shadows and watch every single episode.
1,225.
I got a long way to go.
All right. When you finish that, Brian, I want you to start on the Marilyn Ross books. There are 32 of them that I recorded. And, it's a nice companion to all of the Dark Shadows series.
Yeah. And it's just, because when I was a kid, I mean, Dark Shadows was the show that everybody had to run home from school and watch. But to be honest, I never saw pre-Barnabas because everybody didn't say, watch Dark Shadows until Barnabas got on the air.
Oh,
so I had never seen that. So I've been watching it, and I think I'm on way too many, believe me. I watch too much TV. But I think I'm on 240 something now.
Oh my gosh. All right. I kind of know where you're at. I'll tell you why. Actually, I'm getting married in June, and my fiance was in law school when I was doing Dark Shadows, so he never watched the show, and he found it on Prime or is it Netflix? I can't remember
It's
now.
on
It's
Roku
on a
also.
number of different
Yeah,
platforms. And he started watching it, and I started watching it with him. And it was really fun to see those early episodes because uh, I, in my opinion, the really interesting shows are the ones that began with the very first day of Dark Shadows when I was Maggie Evans, the waitress in the Collinsport Diner, and welcoming Alexandra Malka Isles as Victoria Winters to Collinwood. So I love those episodes and uh, all of those stories that were leading up to Barnabas Collins when he joined us. Essentially, I think it's the first 13 weeks of Dark Shadows. So, um, I don't know. Those are my favorite.
yeah. Well, you know,
And I'm glad that they're showing those. For a long time, they only started with Barnabas's entrance on Dark Shadows.
right. Like I say, I hadn't seen those episodes,
Yeah.
but it was it was very strange. I mean, David was
Are you talking about little David
little
Hennessy?
David. He was very David Collins was really bad.
Yeah, he was. And the well, he's 66 years old now. I talk to him all the time. I adore David. Yes, he was a handful.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, he
by
tried
the
to kill his
time,
father. He tried to kill Victoria.
yes, and by the time I assumed the role of the governess in Collinwood, he'd settled down a little bit. But he was a 10-year-old, and I have to say, uh, he was a very impressive kid. For one thing, he had more theatrical experience than any of the other young actors on the show.
Really?
He'd already toured with Mary Martin in a musical. Uh, he'd done a lot of work, a lot of television commercials and so on. The rest of us, for me, for example, Dark Shadows was the very first time I was on camera. And at 10 years old, he walked into the studio like an adult. He rode his bike to work every morning, and he arrived on his own. I mean, he was
Wow.
he was a very, very adult kid. He was amazing.
But the character was
I know, I know.
evil.
I know. Now, David Hennessy has rarely appeared at any of our Dark Shadows festivals. For many, many years, Jim Pearson used to organize these Dark Shadows festivals that we had on the East Coast one year, on the West Coast the next year, and all of the Dark Shadows. We all showed up, and except for Alexandra Isles and David Hennessy.
Mhm.
And this year, I'm really thrilled that at Lyndhurst on July 19th and 20th, David Hennessy will be one of the attendees. I'm really,
Wow.
I'm really thrilled. He'll be one of the guests.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
And the other fun thing is that Sharon Smith, who is wonderful as, little Sarah, she's going to be there as well. So it'll be fun to see the two of them together.
Mhm. Yeah. Now, okay, with my memory, it's not very good. But
Right?
little Sarah,
Little
uh,
Sarah, she was the one that well, if you've watched the early episodes when Barnabas came on the show and then he kidnapped Maggie and he put her in the dungeon, you must be
dungeon,
up to that point.
right?
It
That's
was
exactly where I was.
okay. Well,
She's
little
singing
Sarah was
outside your
she
prison cell.
that's right. She was the ghost of Barnabas's younger sister, Sarah.
Okay.
And she died young. And she would show up. Maggie would see her, and nobody else would. And that's when we really became a ghost show. I remember our director, Leela Swift, when she read that first script with little Sarah, she said, "Wait a minute. Now we are doing a ghost story because Maggie sees her, nobody else sees her. That's a ghost."
Mhm.
And Dan kind of winked at her and and said, "Oh yes, we're
Well,
going." So, but she was a lovely actress. Again, I mean, they were like 9 and 10 years old when they were
mm,
doing the show, and working among adults, and they never missed a cue, they never missed a line. They were really remarkable. So it'll be fun to see these two reunited.
Yeah. It's now the show of Dark Shadows. You say that was the first ghost story, but there were always little hints at the beginning where you saw the ghost of Josette walking outside the old house, and and that was it. That was you saw that. You saw
Yes, there were
David talk to
hints.
her and things like that, but no hints. Was the original concept of Dark Shadows to become that, or did they just change their mind and say, okay, we got to put in Barnabas, got to put in more ghosts and things like that?
Yeah, originally it was a gothic romance. It was really Jane Eyre, and the character of Victoria of Victoria Winters was really Jane Eyre, and originally there was always the thought that she might be the illegitimate daughter of the Joan Bennett character, Elizabeth Cullen Stoddard. Uh, that was never actually resolved, I don't think, during the whole course of the show. And of course, Alexandra left the show. So there were hints. I think the sea captain, I think he
Yes.
was the first proper ghost that came on the show. Um, and then Frank Schofield was the actor. And then it was little Sarah who was singing London Bridges and bouncing her
Mhm.
ball and so on. Uh, and then by the time we got to Diana Malay playing the Phoenix, I mean, we were a full-fledged ghost story. Then we ended up having a werewolf, and of course Barnabas led the charge. He really saved the show. I think we were in danger of being canceled, and then Dan just pulled out all the stops and introduced a vampire.
Mhm.
And of course that made us a ratings hit. I think there were 20 million people at one point watching an afternoon show. There are primetime shows now that would love to have an audience of
That's
20
for
million.
sure.
So we were and that was back in the 60s, 67, 68. I think we really hit a peak with 20 million viewers, which is extraordinary. So by then, of course, I mean, we're goblins and ghoulies, as Joan Bennett once said.
Yeah. Now, Jonathan Frid,
Yeah.
was he was it hard to get for them to get him on the show? Do you know? Because he was a trained Shakespearean actor, correct? Am I
Yes, and he was actually he was in his 40s, I believe, and he was going to give up his career as an actor. And he told his agent that, and he was on his way to California. He was going to teach. I think he had I can't remember where, but he had a background. He had been trained as a director as well, and then he got the audition for Dark Shadows, and and of course the rest is history. Um, he just Oh, I don't want to say this, but I will. He sank his teeth into that role. I was there the very first day when he showed up in the rehearsal room with the wardrobe woman and the makeup man and our producer. And he was being introduced to the rest of the cast. And he was fully formed as Barnabas Collins. He had, the spiky hair, he had the wolf's head cane, the Edwardian six-button suit, the cape, yeah, the wolf's head cane. And he had the voice, he had the deportment. He was Barnabas Collins, fully formed. It was amazing.
Mhm.
Most of the rest of us kind of grew into our roles. And, we had 2 weeks of rehearsal before we did the very first show live. I think that was in April. Yeah, we went in front of the cameras in April of 1966. So, the other actors like Laura Parker, who came on as the witch Angelique, they just came right on and again, fully formed as their characters.
Yeah. I can't imagine anybody else playing the role that Jonathan played as Barnabas. I mean, it
No,
was just so
no,
perfect.
for the life of me, I can't explain this, but there was something really captivating about him and and dare I say it, sexy. I mean, I was 20, whatever. He was in his 40s. Of course, he was playing a 200-year-old vampire, so we'll give him that. But there was something um, I don't know how to explain it. He had a charisma, he
Mhm.
had a presence, and whatever other work that he had done, stage work or whatever, he had never become um, any any more than a journeyman actor. And a bread and butter actor. I don't know.
Mhm. Yep.
It's what I am. Uh, but all of a sudden, Jonathan became a star. He really broke out, and he was always known from then on as Barnabas Collins.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is David Selby, and I am on screen and beyond.
Yeah. Now, your role as Maggie, when I, watch the early episodes, and
Yeah.
you were basically the only normal person. You didn't have all the trouble that everybody else was having when people wanted something. You were the wise person who, served them coffee and gave them advice and things like that. But then when Barnabas came along, you had probably one of the juiciest roles on the show.
I did. I did actually. I'll agree with that. Um, Yes, I think it's always been understood that Maggie Evans was the moral center of Dark Shadows. She was, I never thought of her as the victim, but certainly she was victimized by Barnabas Collins. Oh, and by Nicholas Blair and so on. Um, but she was the sensible one. Um, she was the stable one. And I think that the relationship with her father, Pops, had a lot to do with that because he was, Maggie was motherless. She had grown up with Pops, who was a drinker, and I think at probably 7, 8 years old, she was dragging him out of the Blue Whale, Blotto, which was humiliating, but it also it made her she was the homemaker. I
Mhm.
mean, she was the one who ran the house um, and looked after her father. So there was something again very adult about her and very centered.
Yeah.
Uh, I, I've had friends who have had fathers who were like that, and they're different. They they sort of rise to the occasion. They learn how to handle themselves and the world around them to accommodate uh, that responsibility. It can go many different ways, but it's not something I experienced in my own personal life, but I understand it.
Yeah.
And all these years later, I still get letters from fans, saying, it meant so much sitting on the couch watching you because I came from a home like that, and and you were such a sympathetic character, and I knew you understood. I thought that means a lot, 40 years later to you know, hear from somebody who's an adult but was a youngster and was going through that. It's
Yeah.
kind of amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how TV can do that, bring
Yes.
people into a character, and it's TV, but
Yeah.
they still love it. They just love it.
Yeah. I know. I was terribly lucky. Well, Laura Parker, and we lost her a year and a half ago, my dear, dear friend. She always said, "Isn't it amazing?" For many of us, our very first job was our best job. Um, I don't think any of us, you know, f- um, well, they always talk about George Reeves, who played Superman, who always resented the fact that for the rest of his life he was Superman. I don't mind that for the rest of my life I'm Maggie Evans. Um, and Laura felt the same way. I think David Selby feels the same way about his Quentin role. It doesn't matter all of the other things that all of us have done in our 60-year careers. I mean, you could have appeared in a rerun of Magnum the night before, but if you're recognized on the street, they'll talk about
Right.
Dark Shadows.
Did you ever think 59 years ago, it was that you started this show, that all this time later, you would still be talking with people about it and going to events and things like that? It's just unbelievable.
No, because for one thing, that sort of thing didn't exist. And we were a live show. You saw it once and the show disappeared. In fact, when we had all of those bloopers, because you're doing a show live, things happen. And there were times when, I would just weep after the show, and I would beg Dan Curtis to allow us to, redo it, because you'd forget a name, you'd get whatever. That happens. Uh, and of course, he would say, it's a bunch of kids and housewives watching. It'll never be seen again. Well, 50 years later, it's everywhere. It's never been off the air. Um, so no, you could not possibly have thought that. We were doing a live show. We did it once, we'd never see it again. It was gone. Um, so it never occurred to me, but we did know that we were doing something special. We weren't like the other soap operas. We were more of an anthology series, and we functioned more like a repertory group of actors playing multiple characters. So we did know that we were doing something special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you mentioned about the bloopers and things like that. But besides, I mean, there's always, you see the mic boom coming in like that and things, or you see the shadow of the crew behind, and things like that. But when somebody messed up a line,
Yeah.
that's real life. I mean, that happens, so I don't even pay attention to that. If they were giving the wrong name, Joan Bennett, when she did, I just recently
You
I
do
saw,
as an actor.
yeah,
You do as an actor.
you could tell she
It's like
forgot her
doing,
role.
stage work, and I've done a lot of stage. Every night it's a new show, and there's maybe a 2% difference between one night and the next night. But for you, it's big. It's
Right.
big. And you just put it behind you and go on stage the next night, and it's a different show. So it was very much like that. And, a lot of us had done summer stock straight out of acting school, and summer stock is very similar. You've got a week to mount an entire show, and you come in with your lines learned, you learn your blocking, you just go for it. And, that first night can be a little rocky. Um, it's your first time in front of an audience doing that character, that show. And I have to say, Dark Shadows was very much like that. All of these, the SNL shows that are live, and it's not live the way we were live. I mean, we did the countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, and you were on. And whatever happened, there was no safety net whatsoever.
Hmm.
You just lived with it.
Yeah,
And that also made it special. It was also a great training ground for young actors.
I can
It was
imagine.
unbelievable. It was a little hard on I think the veteran actors, the older ones, but when you're young, you learn lines quickly and you're facile and you you just go for it. And I have to say, we've lost a good many of our company.
Yeah.
After all, it is 59 years. So we don't have Jonathan or Grayson or Humbert or Louis or, so many, and Laura. Um, but those of us who are still around, we love getting together. I'm very, very close to uh, David Selby, Jim Storm, Nancy Barrett. And I'm really thrilled. Every year, I go to Lyndhurst, which is in Terrytown. It's the Lyndhurst Estate, and it's an historical landmark. It's where we filmed House of Dark Shadows and Night of Dark Shadows. And, there's a certain amount of uh, a huge nostalgia, and it's a beautiful place. So as a fundraiser for them every year, I gather some of my Dark Shadows colleagues, and we have tours of the house, which is beautiful. But we also have a meet and greet, and we do autographs and photographs and mingle with everybody. This year, the year before our 60th anniversary, I am thrilled that I'm going to be joined by Marie Wallace, who played Crazy Jenny, and Nancy Barrett, who has rarely been to a Dark Shadows festival. She played Carolyn
Carolyn,
Stoddard.
yes.
Nancy is coming, which I'm thrilled about, because, and David Hennessy, of course, and it was David and Nancy and me on that very first episode. So that's going to be a very nice reunion. And of course, Sharon Smith. So, oh, and Donna McKechnie,
Oh, Donna's going to be there. I
who
didn't know that.
originated the role on Cassie, I believe, on Broadway
Broadway,
and
yes.
Chorus Line. And I just, I love Donna. I mean, we are such close friends. And, she's still working, like I'm still working. And she said, I'll be there, Kathryn, unless I get a job. So, we're going to have a very nice group. And, tickets are still available. Not many. I think they're going to be releasing more on May 1st. But just go to the Lyndhurst website. It's LYNDHURST.com. And you'll see um, the paywall where you can
Hmm.
buy tickets to the event. But it's Saturday and Sunday, July 19th and 20th.
Yeah.
And by then I'll be a married woman.
Well, and early congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Laura Parker. I played the witch Angelique on Dark Shadows, and I was on Screen and Beyond. So tune in.
Uh, we've we've already got tickets have been on sale for a month and a half. I don't know how many are left. I haven't looked at the site lately,
I know some
but
are sold out. Some of the tours I
oh,
saw.
okay, all right. Some of it is sold out, but there will be more tickets that'll be released in the next week or so. So best to go on there on the site and acquaint yourself with it. And if you know, I'll try to give everybody a heads up on my Facebook page, Kathryn Leigh Scott. Um, and it's a public site, so just come on my Facebook page, and I'll try to give everybody a heads up when I know that the tickets are going to be available.
It sounds like it's going to be a fun time, and
Oh
I know
yes.
I noticed there's going to be a local cemetery that's having
Yes.
tours too, and
Sleepy Hollow
Sleepy Hollow,
Cemetery,
yes.
which is famous. It's Ichabod Crane, for heaven's sake. But the very first day of House of Dark Shadows, we filmed at Sleepy Hollow. And it's right across the street. Well, down a little bit, but across the
Mhm.
street from Lyndhurst. So we're going to have a tour there. Um, and it's a beautiful place. I mean, it's a beautiful old cemetery. And the town of Tarrytown is it's just very old world.
Mhm. Yes.
Wonderful restaurants, a great town to stroll in, and of course the grounds at Lyndhurst are beautiful.
Yeah. Now, did you actually film in the Lunhurst mansion, or
Oh
was it
yes.
exteriors?
No, we did both.
Mhm.
The scene where the ballroom, where we had the costume party, that was at Lyndhurst, and also where Jonathan turns into the 200-year-old man,
Yes.
and I've been bitten, and I'm lying in a bed, but that's in one of the upstairs bedrooms. That's part of the tour. And they're also going to open the Tower Room, which is at the very top of Lyndhurst, and that was used with Night of Dark Shadows. And David Selby and Laura Parker played a scene up there. The bathhouse is where David Hennessy and Nancy Barrett did their wonderful scene where she turns into the vampire and uh, oh, in the stable. where I did the scene with Johnny Carlin as Willie Loomis. We toured that as well. So there's really a lot to see there.
Hmm. Wow. It sounds like it's going to be a great time, and if
Yes,
people
it's going
have
to be.
the
It
chance, they
is.
should go.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Brian,
Dark
are you
Shadow.
going to be coming?
Well, you know something? I might that is my birthday. So
No.
so I don't know. I'll talk to my wife and see if we can
How
head
would you
over there.
like to have a bunch of Dark Shadows actors singing happy birthday to you? Oh, I think that would be fun. You must let me know if you're coming.
I will, I will. But I've thought about it because it's not that far. I can travel that far.
All right. Well, I can't promise you a cake, but I can.
But and it must be just wonderful when the bunch of you get together like that.
Oh, it is. It is. Well, we're very close. We had our own little studio in New York, and I think that was part of why we have that bond. The other soap operas, they were all done in a studio environment with, a lot of them in one place. Like ABC Studios or CBS. But we had our own little studio. It was 2 stories, and downstairs was the soundstage, upstairs the rehearsal rooms and dressing rooms. So we were family. We were running up and down the stairs and bumping into each other and rehearsing there and having our lunch there and, standing around talking while we were having somebody was having their makeup done.
Hmm.
So we really, uh, yeah, it was a magical time. Um,
Well, Catherine, we got to
four
run out.
years of my young life were spent
Yeah.
in that studio.
But, I want to finish up with one final question.
Yeah.
Actually, two. I'm going to
All
squeeze
right.
one in, quick ones
Okay.
here. But before we go into the last question, uh, what's the funniest thing that was a blooper for you? Not necessarily your character,
Oh.
but on a scene that you were in. Can you remember anything that was just
Well, Grayson Hall and Joan Bennett were doing a scene. It was probably in, um, the 1800s. Probably, I think I was playing Lady Kitty Hampshire, and they started the scene, and the stage manager said, "Grab my arm," and said, "Get this to Joan." And it was, I think it was a gun or was something, and I stuck it into the muff I was carrying. And I walked in and not so subtly passed her the prop. I think it was a gun. That was probably the funniest. But there were so many. Um, the fellow playing my father, David Ford, could never remember his lines, who he would always read on the teleprompter. And then he started squinting at the teleprompter. And so, oh, this is terrible. Dan Curtis, and he was he played an artist. And it was a tragic situation where he lost his eyesight, mainly because he could then wear dark glasses and you couldn't see his eyes shifting as he was reading the teleprompter. Uh, but he was quite good. He was a stage actor, wonderful stage actor, and he could always do an impromptu thing. And there was a bit of light flashing that fell down between us, and without missing a beat, he just said, "Maggie, you better call the roofer." Anyway, there's so many funny things.
yeah.
Um, Louis Edmonds missed his he forgot that he was in the last scene of a show one day. He was upstairs getting undressed and he raced down in his undershorts.
Oh,
He still
geez.
had his shirt on and grabbed his jacket and played this. I mean, you can't imagine. It was summer stock.
Yeah, it sounds like it was just a fun time, and
It
you
was.
made do. Yeah.
It was.
Well, Catherine, it's going to be such an event for people to go see. That's on July 19th and 20th in Terrytown at the Lyndhurst Mansion. They should check that out and get some tickets and head over there and have a good time. Meet you all.
Yes.
Final question.
Yeah. Okay. Another one. Okay.
When you sit back and relax, what's your favorite TV shows now and of the past, and what's your favorite movies? What do you enjoy?
Oh. Oh, I don't even know. Like everybody else, of course, we're watching Bosch and we're watching Studio, we're watching, these 8 episode shows that are really wonderfully acted and they always leave you wanting more. So,
Exactly.
um,
8 is
I
not enough.
I don't watch network television. I'm not a big television watcher, I have to be honest. I'm
Mhm.
also a member of the Motion Picture Academy, so I'm always going to screenings. I tend to watch more, films
Yeah.
than I do television. But like anybody else, I'm watching these streaming shows, and they're really quite good.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Lincoln Cattle, that one I really like that one. I like the new Perry Mason. I hope that's coming back. Uh, yeah, some really good television. When I watch, I'm always happy.
Well, Kathryn, I cannot thank you enough for taking time to share with us. It's always fun to have you on, and I hope we do this again sometime.
You bet. And I'll see you on your birthday.
And a big thank you going out to Kathryn Leigh Scott for joining us here on Screen and Beyond. Kathryn has been our guest twice, like I said earlier, in the past. And you can go back and listen to both of those episodes in the audio episodes. We were not video at that time. Episodes 144 and 416, and you can learn more about Kathryn. So if you get a chance, be sure to check out the event that's going to be going on in Tarrytown, New York on July 19th and 20th. Sounds like it's going to be a great Dark Shadows event. So if you enjoy that show, be sure to check that out. If you are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get the podcasts, whether it's video, audio, please subscribe or follow or whatever they want to call it, just so you'll get the episode as soon as it comes out. And be sure to tell a friend so they too can enjoy their favorite TV, movie, and music stars as they share their stories and projects with us right here each week on Screen and Beyond. So that's it. That is a wrap for this episode of On Screen and Beyond. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, when we once again take you on screen and beyond, I'm Brian Zemrak. Take care.